Alright, thank you for joining me. This is Gulpain and welcome back to the Broken Sword Retrospective. And in this video we're going to talk about, keep saying we, the Broken Sword 3. So I've already had a look at or played Broken Sword 1 and 2. And the only one I haven't actually tried yet is Broken Sword 2.5, but I'm saving that for a rainy day. So basically, I played all 5 games myself, obviously years ago with Broken Sword 1 and Broken Sword 2. And then I rediscovered Broken Sword then about 2009 when I got the Wii version. And but I had already played Broken Sword 3 already myself. I didn't really like it that much actually. This was always been my least favourite. And when I replayed it recently, like I really do like it. Obviously, it's just like the least best, because Broken Sword are all really good, but I find Broken Sword 3 the least best. I think Broken Sword 4 improved significantly over Broken Sword 3, as was said in the development by or the development notes by Charles Cecil, that they wanted to make didn't want to have the cartoony visuals anymore. They wanted to go for a more kind of less flat look and have some visual depth, so they went for the old 3D backgrounds, which was popular at the time with the kids, because the 2D stuff was kind of seen as the dark ages, and then everyone was going 3D. But then you have these like 2D games like Symphony of the Night, Broken Sword, Suikoden, etc. Those sort of games that came out like late 90s, early 90s, which retained the sort of 2D for the most part. Suikoden's battles are 3D, but for the most part it was sort of like 2D, and those ones have aged really well, where some of the early 3D games haven't. So in this retrospective, I'm going to go through the story of Broken Sword 3. I'm just going to read it from the fandom site, Brokensword.Fandom, and then speak a little bit more about Broken Sword 3. So the plot then goes as follows. George Stobbart, the protagonist, and Harry Gilligan, his friend, are flying to the Congo basin to meet a scientist. They arrive at the scientist's lab in time to see him gunned down by a pale, lanky man and his bodyguard. A postcard hidden in the lab prompts George to travel to Glastonbury, England, to search for a man named Bruno. Meanwhile, Nico finds out a hacker named Vernon Beeler has decoded the Voynich manuscript and been killed for it. Back at Nico's apartment, Bruno reveals that the stolen key was the Key of Solomon. Susaro would need it to access a special armillary in an ancient building, the location of which is unknown. In time, they collect 2 more keys, like the Omega Key, and they determine that the armillary is in Egypt. Before this discovery, however, Bruno is captured by Susaro. While in Glastonbury, George rushes to save an old man from a burning building. The old man turns out to be Bruno, and a former Neo-Templar. He claims that the Neo-Templars have been taken over by a man named Susaro, who renamed it the Cult of the Dragon. It is revealed that Susaro is the pale man who killed the scientist in the Congo. The old man says that Susaro seeks to gain immortality through the use of the Earth's ley lines. Bruno is able to track the ley lines and believes that Susaro may be going to Paris, France. Bruno leads George to an abandoned theatre in Paris. Inside, George finds Susaro, a mysterious woman, and Flap, interrogating Nico. After Susaro and the woman leave, George knocks Flap unconscious and rescues Nico. George learns that Nico was following the woman named Petra, because the woman had framed her for the murder of Vernon, a hacker she was due to interview. George and Nico continue to search the theatre, looking for the source of the energy Bruno detected. They find 2 keys. One has an Omega symbol on it, the other is the energy source. Outside, George is tased by an unknown assailant, and the energy key is stolen. At the armillary building, George and Nico arrive to see Susaro forcing Bruno to activate the armillary. As it powers up, George and Nico subdue Susaro. Petra arrives with a hooded man, seen twice before in the game, who proceeds to kill Susaro with supernatural powers. It is revealed that the hooded man is the Grand Master of the Neo-Templars, thought to have been killed in the first game. With the armillary active and the location of a large power site displayed, the Grand Master sets off dynamite in the building as he escapes. Trapping George, Nico and Bruno inside, the only way for them to escape is for one of them to sacrifice themselves in one of the puzzle rooms. Bruno takes the responsibility, hoping to atone for past sins so that George and Nico can stop the Grand Master. George and Nico arrive at the power site in Glastonbury. As Nico confronts Petra, George tries to stop the Grand Master. He arrives in time to see the Grand Master absorb the energy at the site, turning him into a dragon and causing the ground beneath them to collapse. George finds a sword in the cavern, which he uses to slay the dragon and save the world. So that is just a quick brush over of the story from Fandom. Citing my sources here, so I won't be accused of plagiarism. And basically, my first impression of Broken Sword 3 was, well, I didn't really like the kind of the 3D environments because I was so accustomed to the 2D environments of Broken Sword 1 and 2, but I still accepted it because that's the way games were going. But however, I don't know, like walking George around and quite a lot of crate puzzles as well, and it didn't kind of stay with me as much as Broken Sword 1 and 2. Now that could be a number of reasons, because when I played Broken Sword 2, like that was the first one I played, like I loved that game when I was very small. I was a kid, like, and I absolutely loved it, and it was so, like, you know, it seemed like it was so adult compared to like what I was used to, and it got me interested in history. It kind of shaped my, I'm certain that it shaped my career as well, becoming like a history teacher and stuff, well, a little bit anyway, but yeah, kind of, I think that's where I was. So I think that's why I have such a profound kind of memory of Broken Sword 1 and 2, because I encountered them when I was very young. I have a great nostalgia for them, and they were kind of such an influence on my life as well. But Broken Sword 3 then, I encountered Broken Sword 3 later in life. I think I was at university when I played it first, actually. So I didn't really spend a lot of time. I think I played it once and I never replayed it. I also never got stuck on it either, which I did get stuck on Broken Sword 1 and 2, and that caused me to, like, because I didn't have a guide, that caused me to like go around, you know, the different places and kind of really, you know, kind of really discover what the game was about and really kind of speak to every single character and exhaust every possibility. Whereas I didn't have to do that in Broken Sword 3. It seemed a bit more linear as well. You didn't have as much opportunity to get stuck, I think. But maybe that was like, you know, part of the development. They didn't, you know, kind of want people to think this was like an old-fashioned point-and-click game. They wanted it to be like an adventure game. There is like action parts in it as well. There's a lot more, significantly more action in Broken Sword 3. Again, that was probably a development choice as well, in Broken Sword 3 than previous games. And one thing that always kind of stuck with me about Broken Sword 3 as well is the supernatural element in it. I didn't really like you know, like the supernatural element in Broken Sword 3. I was like, you're fighting a dragon? What? I'll always remember, after I fought the last boss, the dragon, I kept doing it until I won. Then I was like, I felt really kind of let down that Broken Sword 3 was sort of like, it wasn't grounded in reality anymore. It was like, you know, you were fighting a dragon. But then when I went back to Broken Sword 2, I realised that in Broken Sword 2 there's this supernatural element as well, where they're trying to, you know, it only seems to be the end of it, where they break from reality and go to this sort of supernatural thing, with Tezcatlipoca comes out of the mirror, the smoking mirror, and basically, in Ireland we pronounce mirror as one syllable, not two, which I'm constantly told is the incorrect way to pronounce mirror. But yeah, Tezcatlipoca comes out and tries to kill the people there, but then goes back in. But it's only like it's not really, it's alluded to the whole game, but it's not really a big part of the game. Broken Sword 2, like the supernatural element of it, until like right to the very end, and you're confronted with it. Whereas in Broken Sword 3, there's a lot more emphasis placed on this sort of supernatural element, which I didn't really like. I preferred that it was grounded in reality, which is strange because I normally love like supernatural things, like, you know, I love when zombies and vampires are in like shows and stuff. But yeah, the caveat to that then is that I don't think that it's actually, I think I was wrong there. The Broken Sword 3 is not like a mainly supernatural game. I still think it is grounded in reality. It does take a significant amount of kind of cues from other games though. It's exceptionally like Tomb Raider. I think with the puzzles in the game, like there's these huge puzzles, you know, in like temples and stuff that are very unrealistic. Whereas in Broken Sword 1, I found that the puzzles that you were doing were sort of like very grounded in reality, or very kind of reality based. Yes, there was you know, there was like secret passages, and there was you know, you go down to the sewers and there's, you know, secret safe, but they all seem to be kind of, you know, like plausible. I think anyway, I could be completely wrong. They seem plausible to me, whereas this more sort of like spectacular, like overtly video game puzzle, where you go into like in Uncharted, where you go into this huge room, and like Nathan Drake is supposed to be an archaeologist, yet he routinely destroys, you know, like invaluable archaeological finds, which an archaeologist would never in a million years do. An archaeologist would brush, you know, like a little bit of dirt off something in order to retain its integrity, whereas Nathan Drake just like routinely just smashes things left, right and centre. So I felt that it was going towards that way. But then, I mean, you have to remember I always have to kind of ground myself as well, because I have to remember that this game is supposed to appeal to as wide an audience as possible. So then appealing to me. Just keeping it like 1 and 2 is not going to be sufficient for sales. So then maybe this sort of this more 3D kind of adventure based game would have brought it more into the mainstream. I don't think it did though. I think it sort of still retains a sort of niche kind of audience. And I don't know if sales must have been okay, because it was out on the PlayStation 2, I believe the PC and the Xbox, whatever you call it, Xbox original, the one with the Duke controller, that one, it was out in all those 3 systems. But then Broken Sword 4 then only seemed to come out on PC, so that was kind of strange, considering kind of Broken Sword seemed to be like in the mainstream. I don't know, maybe they didn't have enough sales to produce a sequel on the consoles as well as the PC, because this is very much like a sort of old-fashioned PC game. Well, I thought it was anyway. So that's Broken Sword 3, just a quick chat about it. Let me know if you've played Broken Sword 3 in the comment section below. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening. I'll see you guys in the next Broken Sword retrospective.